We're finishing up the last chapter, and we're going to do this all in one video. We're going to look at identifying quadrilaterals. This is just sort of a way to sum up everything that you've learned in this chapter, and you can use that graphic organizer I gave you. For this first question, it says quadrilateral ABC has at least one pair of opposite sides congruent. We want to know what quadrilaterals meet that condition. If you look at your graphic organizer, you can see that there are quite a few things that have one pair of opposite sides congruent. So, first of all, we know that parallelograms and rhombuses have opposite angles congruent, okay? And then we know that rectangles and squares have all angles congruent, so in that case, at least one pair of opposite angles is congruent. And then finally, for a kite, we know that one pair of opposite angles are congruent. So all of these would fit into that condition because of the words at least. If it said only one pair of opposite sides congruent, then it would only be a kite. Here's another problem. It says we want to state what this shape is. So again, what you want to do is go down your graphic organizer and see how far down you can get before you can't go any further. So first of all, we want to know if this is a quadrilateral. And yes, it's got four sides. That's good enough. The markings that are shown here show that the diagonals bisect each other. Therefore, it's a parallelogram. If we look to see if it's a rhombus, we don't know anything about the sides being congruent, and we don't know if the diagonals are perpendicular. We don't know if these angles are being bisected. For a rectangle, we don't know if these are 90 degrees, and we don't know, well, we know that the BD and AC are not congruent. So since we don't know if it's a rhombus or a rectangle, we don't know if it's a square, our best answer would be it's a parallelogram. And again, we know CE and AE are congruent, BE and DE are congruent, so the diagonals bisect each other. That makes it a parallelogram. We know that these are also parallelograms, but there's not enough information about side lengths or angle measures, so we don't know if it's a rectangle, rhombus, or square. Okay? The correct answer is A, which was parallelogram. Here's another one. We want to know if there's enough information here to show that it's a isosceles trapezoid. We know these two angles are equal. We know this is 106. If we figure this out, it would be 180 minus 74. Whoops, sorry. 180 minus 74. And that gives you 106 here as well. We notice that both sets of base angles are congruent, so that is enough information. Remember, one of the properties of an isosceles trapezoid is base angles are congruent. So again, or you could do that. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Okay, first of all, we want to prove it's a trapezoid. So we know that these two angles are supplementary, therefore QR and PS are parallel. Since QR and PS are parallel, we know it's a trapezoid. Then we want to prove that it's an isosceles trapezoid. So we know P and S are congruent base angles, and we also know by the work that we did that Q and R are also congruent base angles. So therefore, we have enough information there. Therefore, it is an isosceles trapezoid. It says quadrilateral DEFG has at least one pair of opposite sides congruent. What quadrilaterals meet this condition? Well, we know parallelograms have both pairs of opposite sides congruent. That means that parallelograms, rectangles, rhombuses, squares all fit into that category of at least one pair. For trapezoids, we don't have that true, but for isosceles trapezoids, we have that true. So isosceles trapezoid would fit in there as well, and kite would not fit in there. So those are our answers. Parallelogram and everything below parallelograms, and then the legs on the isosceles trapezoid. Here's another one where, if we look at this carefully, opposite sides are not congruent, so it's not a parallelogram or anything below that, but we notice that consecutive sides are congruent. This makes it a kite. So our reason would be two pairs of consecutive congruent sides. That makes it a kite. Here's another one. We have one set of parallel sides. That makes it a trapezoid. If we look, the 64 and 80 gives me 144. 75 and 62 gives me 137. So 144 and 137 are not equal. Therefore, this is not an isosceles trapezoid. It's only a trapezoid. And here's another one. We know one set of sides is congruent. We know one diagonal is bisected, and we have the length of one side. We really don't have that much information. So in this case, all we could state is that it's a quadrilateral. It's not a parallelogram because there's not enough information. We don't know if it's a kite, and we don't know if it's a trapezoid. So quadrilateral is the best we can do. And here's another one. Probably the best thing to do is draw a picture if you're given the information. And you can draw it so that it looks like it or doesn't look like it, but the information given to us, we'll just draw it like that for now because he's assuming it's isosceles. We want to see if there's enough information. So we know MN and PQ are parallel, which makes it a trapezoid. MP is congruent to NQ, and P and Q are congruent. And it says definitely it's an isosceles trapezoid. Well, we don't know about MQ and we don't know about NP. Okay? If these were parallel as well, then it would be a parallelogram. If these were congruent, it would be a parallelogram. Right now, we know it's either an isosceles trapezoid or a parallelogram. So there's not enough information about MQ and NP to be able to make that conclusion right now. If they had told us it was a trapezoid and the diagonals were congruent, then we would say yes, it's an isosceles trapezoid. But we don't even know if it's a trapezoid or a parallelogram, so there's not enough information there. Okay? And yes, don't know MQ and NP, the relationship. So we don't have enough information. Could be a rectangle, could be a square, could be a parallelogram. And that's it. Thanks.